KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
A young woman is calling for more information and an apology after her cat was taken here to Scraps and euthanized over the weekend. Scraps says it made the decision with the cat's suffering in mind and within policy guidelines.
Taya Nelms is readjusting to life without her 14-year-old cat Dewey. He was more than just a pet to her.
Ever since I've had him, I just loved him because he was the last thing I had of my godfather, and to think now that he's gone it's hard.
Dewey was an indoor-outdoor cat, so his absence Thursday night didn't worry Nelms. Her concern began when he didn't come home.
I went out and I searched for him from like 9 o'clock to almost 12 in the pouring rain.
Friday morning around 9 a.m., Scraps got a call about a cat found in the street looking unwell.
He looks sick.
He looks sick?
Yeah, there's something wrong. He can barely move. I took him in my maintenance room and gave him food and water, and
Scraps says Dewey was brought in just before 11 a.m. Scraps released a statement saying Dewey was, quote, actively dying on the exam table. Without a microchip, Scraps says it euthanized Dewey the same day to ease his suffering. Reports show Dewey suffered from kidney failure and severe dehydration. But that information didn't sit right with Nelms.
If they did all this blood work, if they did all this, it should be shown like, oh, there's poison. There's poison in his blood. This is what happened. But none of that was provided. None of that was given.
She says Dewey was healthy before he got lost Thursday. As an animal rescuer, she says Dewey would have shown signs he was in pain.
Pawed me, scratched me, bit me, but he's very vocal with his paws.
Spokane County Communications Patrick Bell told KREM 2 if the cat was healthy and unchipped, he would have been put up for adoption, but that wasn't the case with Dewey. Nelms says she understands the importance of microchipping her animals, and that's why her other cat and dogs are microchipped. She says out of respect for her late godfather, she chose not to microchip Dewey. Dewey has been cremated, but Nelms says to properly begin healing, Scraps can begin with an apology.
Last night, Spokane City Council appointed 2 city representatives to the Scraps Advisory Board. Councilman Michael Cathcart tells me their responsibilities will include connecting Scraps more to the community and making it a more accessible organization. At this time, their responsibilities will not include euthanasia decisions. In Spokane County, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
We've been covering the ongoing controversy and City Council's actions in response to it for months. It was one of those recent actions that's triggering both sides to now get their attorneys to take a closer look. Spokane City Council says they're ready to align with the county in running Spokane County's Regional Animal Protection Services, or SCRAPS.
I mean, we're stronger together, better policy together, better expectations for the region.
There's only one hang up.
So we really need that to be repealed, and then we can move forward with resolving the disputes.
September 25th, Council passed an ordinance prohibiting SCRAPS from putting down animals for lack of space. It only applies to animals impounded from the city. But County CEO Scott Simmons says it still violates the contract for SCRAPS.
I don't think it serves anyone's interest to go through dispute resolution, but it's something that we had to trigger.
Simmons reiterated a common refrain. SCRAPS does not euthanize for capacity reasons, but he says it is allowed in county code, and the city's has to be substantially identical to comply with the regional contract.
Couldn't we just fix the county side that says the same thing, so they're both saying the same thing? If you're not doing it, does that make sense?
Simmons said that could put SCRAPS in a bind in the future if shelters can't take its excess animals.
That's something that I think really has to be...
For now, it seems alignment.
Well, I think that absolutely has to be changed.
Is still going to take some time. City Attorney Lyndon Smithson says they are still trying to set up times to meet with the county to address the ordinance dispute. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Just before 7 p.m. last night, Newburgh-Dundee police say a plane crashed with a local woman on board. 20-year-old Emily Hurd was air-flighted to OHSU Portland with serious injuries. Newburgh police did not have updates on her status today. This afternoon, the National Transportation Safety Board, Newburgh Police Department, and Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue held a press conference to discuss the crash.
During that presser, we learned all 3 passengers had ties to the Portland Flight School in Hillsborough.
20-year-old Barrett Bivacqua of Hillsborough, 22-year-old Michele Cavallati, and 20-year-old Emily Hurd was the surviving victim of that crash.
NTSB reports Emily is a student at the flight school. The other passengers were another student and an instructor. NTSB says the flight was instructional.
We look at all phases of flight, and this was an instructional flight, so potentially they could have been doing a maneuver. At this point, we just don't know.
This is video of the plane spiraling toward the ground last night. One witness told our Portland sister station KGW he couldn't believe what he had just saw and captured on camera.
I'm in shock, kind of, and I ended up getting a glimpse and being someone else has to see this to confirm what I'm seeing.
Federal aviation organizations are reporting the plane was a Piper PA-44180. According to FlightAware, the plane took off from Hillsborough Portland Airport around 6:20 p.m. Tuesday night. The flight path ended less than 30 minutes after takeoff at the back of a Newburgh home. TV Fire and Rescue say people were inside the home at the time of the crash, but were able to evacuate safely.
The NTSB will be investigating what led up to the crash. Investigators will consider weather factors, airplane maintenance, and potential mechanical issues. Next steps include recovering and securing the plane for additional research. In the studio, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
We have now learned John Franklin is the man who was killed Saturday in Mead. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office says he was shot by a security officer. But that still leaves many unanswered questions tonight for the motocross community he was closest to. In the shadow of mountains, piles of dirt are trucked into an otherwise quiet motocross park in Airway Heights, preparing another ride for Josh Hitchens' family.
We're one big family. We all care about each other, so it's a pretty big deal.
A big deal. It'll be the first ride without John Franklin, one of the fixtures of Airway Motocross Park. Hitchens says for the 9 years he's run this place, John was here.
Riding dirt bikes, that's what we do out here.
Franklin and his sons would come out nearly every weekend on the dirt hours before anyone else.
Walk the track, check the track out, help water, pick rocks.
The Spokane County Sheriff's Office reports Franklin was approached by a security guard Saturday, suspected of trespassing on federal land near Bonneville Power Administration.
Didn't really know what happened. We just saw a picture of their truck. Everybody recognized it. I actually text John immediately, just saying, you know, there's some crazy stuff going around and hope you guys are okay. You know, not even knowing that, you know, that he was already gone.
BPA tells KREM 2 News it's aware of the incident with one of its contracted security guards and is cooperating with law enforcement. Hitchens and other family friends say Franklin and his teenage son were near BPA to ride dirt bikes.
But the MX community really took the place over, and there was never, ever any problems riding there. You know, I've personally been riding out there, ridden right by sheriffs, and they never even pumped the brakes.
The sheriff's office reports witnesses saw a physical fight between Franklin, his son, and the security officer before the shooting. The investigation isn't over yet.
You know, hopefully through discovery, you know, the full story will come out.
Until then, Hitchens is preparing another ride to support his motocross family.
We're going to do our best to help support them.
The Motocross Park is planning fundraisers, including this Sunday. All the practice fees and any donations from riders will go to the Franklin family. We have also learned from family friends, including Hitchens, tonight Franklin's son, the other man who was shot, is recovering from gunshot wounds to his leg and wrist. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Well, we first covered Justin Knutson's story in August. His burns from the Oregon Road fire were so bad, he had to be flown to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. He's now back home and putting his life back together.
This is what Justin Knutson looked like in a Seattle hospital days after saving his neighbors during the Oregon Road fire.
It's been definitely one of the most wildest experiences of my life.
As flames devoured his home, Justin ran to his neighbors telling them to evacuate. But on his way out, Justin suffered the worst of it. He stayed in a Seattle hospital for
just over 3 weeks and then been kind of back and forth to the hospital.
second-degree burns on 30% of his body.
Now it's just about trying to stretch and keep mobility with both arms.
It's only been a month and a half since that fateful day, but he's persevered.
We're not materialistic people, so we didn't lose anybody that day, so everything's good. Here, I'll help.
Justin and his family are now picking up the pieces.
Come on, we'll go put them on the deck. Come on.
For the first time since the devastating fire,
come here.
His family is moving into a temporary space.
It'll be a long process, but it's nice to be able to have our own place again.
Bandages still on his arms and legs are a solemn reminder.
Okay, lead the way, buddy. I get angry at myself because I don't have the grip anymore that I used to have.
Of the day his life changed forever.
Turn it off? Okay. Turn this next one off too.
But to be with his family is...
It's a huge blessing to see them again.
And even though Justin is still in recovery...
It's really tight to the...
He's shifting his attention to helping others.
And the community has been awesome for help with our family, donations and everything. And so it's, you gotta always pay it forward.
A long journey ahead, but at his new home, a silver lining.
8 years since we've been able to even order delivery. So it'll be nice to order delivery pizza.
Now, Justin tells me the process to rebuild his home in Elk is already underway. The hope is to get back on their Elk property within the next 2 years. In the studio, Nathan Han, KREM 2 News.
I'm on a property where volunteers from Team Rubicon have been working all day. Team Rubicon is a veteran-led humanitarian organization that helps in disaster recovery. In 2017, Bill Blair was 12 years retired from serving in the Army. He was enjoying a college football game one afternoon when he
sat down at halftime, and on came an ESPN video about what Team Rubicon was doing to help the victims of Hurricane Harvey.
From that moment, his entire life changed.
Team Rubicon is the best nonprofit.
Team Rubicon is a veteran-led humanitarian organization that helps in disaster recovery. For the past 6 years, Bill has traveled the world doing just that, including coming here in Eastern Washington during the Malden disaster.
This is what we call a local operation. You have to be within 450 miles to drive to it.
This week, he and his team are back in Washington helping victims of the Great Fire in Medical Lake. Team Rubicon is cutting down dead trees and moving debris out of the way so people can begin to rebuild.
We are just an additional resource.
The Department of Natural Resources is also doing their part to help victims of the Great Fire. For the past month, DNR has given out more than 2 tons of grass seed to more than 100 home and landowners.
We're also working on securing seedlings like ponderosa pine for this area that we'll be handing out to landowners as well.
Grass has already started to grow in places that were completely burnt. It's images like that that gives Bill hope.
What I really want to see come out of any operation that's disaster recovery, disaster response, is giving that homeowner hope.
Team Rubicon says they're only here in Medical Lake for the week since they have to get to other natural disasters, including recovery efforts in Maui. The plan is to be back in this community in the near future. I asked Team Rubicon if they have any plans to assist in areas impacted by the Oregon Road fire. They say they only go to places that request their help, and at this point, they haven't received any requests from those areas. In Medical Lake, Nathan Han, KREM 2 News.
You can hear it before you see it. But these echoes won't be sounding throughout this valley for much longer. Boggs Pit is busy for one last day. Washington's Department of Natural Resources is shutting it down to target shooting after too many bullets missed the mark.
Those bullets are hitting our houses. They're hitting our cars.
Neighbors who didn't want to be identified for fear of retaliation say the situation has gotten worse the last year. A DNR statement says the parcel 7 miles north of Deer Park has been plagued by irresponsible shooters who've also sparked fires with exploding tannerite targets. DNR will close the pit Thursday, even earlier than previously planned.
They bumped it up a day because of the incident on Sunday where my husband almost got shot.
This woman says her husband heard the shot whiz overhead while on their roof. It then traveled next door.
And the next thing I knew was I heard this woolly, whistling sound above my head.
Seconds later, another shot hit a shipping container 5 feet away.
Which just brought me down to the ground because it was so scary and loud. If that thing hit me, there was nobody up here that would know because nobody's home. So yeah, it's pretty scary.
KREM 2 News spoke with some of the people using the pit Wednesday. No one wanted to speak on camera, but some questioned why DNR doesn't post someone here to prevent unsafe shooting.
We actually had filed a petition with DNR, and that was one of the things that we had recommended. We're pro Second Amendment. Everybody out here is.
But with an unsafe situation hitting too close to home, these locals are happy to see and hear the last of Boggs Pit. Shannon Mowdy.
Enough is enough. Somebody's going to end up getting killed.
KREM 2 News.
And I guess the first question is this postcard legitimate?
It is. They are real, and they contain pretty important information about how to file a claim if you're a class member in the DOL data breach.
Months after our Verify team first told you about it and these postcards started showing up in mailboxes across Washington state, time is running out to join the multi-million-dollar settlement. On Monday, a judge gave his final approval in the case, which follows a data breach with Washington's professional licensing system.
For a certain number of those professions, it kept those licensees' information in a database called Polaris. And in January of 2022, that database was breached by some third-party hacker, and certain licensees' information, actually over 500,000 licensees' information was taken.
If you are affected by the breach, you could get up to $7,500. But first, you have to submit a claim form, and you'll need to do it quickly. The deadline to join the settlement is this Monday, October 9th.
Nadine Woodward and Lisa Brown shook hands as they got on stage tonight and spent about an hour answering questions. Tonight's forum comes 35 days ahead of the November election.
In particular, in public safety and in our unhoused population, most people would tell you the situation has gotten worse over the last 4 years.
We've made some sweeping accomplishments during incredibly challenging, unprecedented times. A health pandemic and a lockdown.
Mayoral candidates Lisa Brown and Nadine Woodward were given 90 seconds to answer some of Spokane's most pressing issues, like the homeless crisis and their plans to keep people warm this winter.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to implement until after the election if I'm elected, but let's do the basic math. There are at least over 2,000 unhoused people, and there are 1,000 emergency beds right now.
Brown says she would work with nonprofits, the business and faith community to quickly pull together additional options to get people inside. Woodward talked about additional capacity at the Trent shelter during extreme weather events, but told the audience,
we will never have enough beds, and that's why the city of Spokane has joined cities up and down the West Coast and in the Ninth Circuit to have the U.S. Supreme Court listen and hopefully overturn Martin v. Boise, because we are having to dedicate most of our funding and resources on low barrier beds instead of other programs like transitional housing that have better outcomes.
Candidates were also asked if they believe in transformative and restorative justice and how a tough on crime stance relates to that.
I heard many, many testimonies from people who finally changed their life when they had to face the consequences of crimes that they had committed.
We're at a place where there are racial disparities throughout our criminal justice system, and we have to dismantle them.
And later this month, Nadine Woodward and Lisa Brown will debate inside the KREM 2 studios. Tune in on Thursday, October 26th. Mark Hanrahan and Whitney Ward will moderate that debate, which will air uninterrupted on KREM 2 and our digital platforms between 7 and 8 p.m. Reporting from the downtown Spokane Library, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News. Catholic Charities says they still have a lot of outreach to do and still have to get funding secured, but if all that goes well, dozens of low-income families could soon be living here near the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Government Way. St. Agnes Family Haven is Catholic Charities' latest vision to help those in need. This rendering shows what the 48 family housing community could look like.
A family earning $53,000 a year with 4 members would qualify to live at St. Agnes Family Haven.
Jonathan Malahan is Catholic Charities' Chief Housing Officer. He says they're preparing an application to the Washington State Housing Trust Fund to develop the property, which he says will provide more than just housing.
On-site services would include case management, employment assistance, and counseling, among other things. Malahan says after-school programs like mentoring and tutoring would help students stay on track.
You know, housing is a very important topic in Spokane. Low-income, homeless housing, public housing of all levels. However, you can't just put it wherever you please.
West Hills Neighborhood Council Chair William Hagee wants Catholic Charities to find another part of town.
We're majorly concerned with compacting services such as that Catholic Charities has a track record of doing.
He says West Hills neighbors are already dealing with the Catalyst project up the street. This summer, a homeless woman intentionally started a fire in front of the property, which threatened the entire neighborhood.
Very much paints a picture that has already happened downtown Spokane surrounding 2nd and Division.
His neighborhood council is set to vote on a resolution asking council members and the city's land use committee to block new developments until the Sunset Bridge can be repaired, which Hagee estimates could take several years.
People who are stably housed when their children have higher levels of educational attainment, they have higher levels of income when they are adults, and they are less likely to experience homelessness when they're adults. So this is a really critical time in people's lives, and building housing that will be provided at St. Agnes Family Haven will change lives for generations to come.
And if the project gets the green light, construction could start as early as next year. Families could be moving in as soon as 2026. Reporting in the West Hills neighborhood, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Inviting people to come work, but when you're no longer needed, you're gone.
Over the past year, Latinos in Spokane has been working on the Immigration Resident.
We are focusing on Latino immigrant history to Washington State.
A documentary that highlights the contributions immigrants have had in our region.
I think it's really important for Spokane and Washington State to learn about our stories because we are here.
Jennifer Missa is the executive director of Latinos in Spokane, a nonprofit that supports the Latino and immigrant community in the county. She says the film focuses on the period of time from 2016 to the present, a period marked by what she calls unprecedented challenges for immigrants in our state. From a new Border Patrol office opened in 2018 that's increased the agency's presence in Spokane, to claims from some passengers who Mesa says have been racially profiled by agents at the Greyhound station. The film also follows several families on their journey to the U.S., and some families who've been here for generations, documenting their shared struggles. So they enlisted the help of Nando Galarza Carter, a filmmaker with more than 10 years of experience.
This is just a big network of organizations that help out the Latino community. That's what I kind of want to do, is put my filmmaking passion and help others with advocating.
A passion that's helped Carter with several projects across Washington and led him to working on this one.
It's an honor to try to put these together and showcase the emotional journey that these people have gone through.
And these stories push him to create something worth watching.
Why is this still happening? And it motivated us more to put this together even better.
Mesa hopes the film puts a spotlight on the people in the community that are so often forgotten.
We are here, and we have contributed so much to this state.
Something she knows all too well.
I include myself in this. I went through my own journey. I was also undocumented at one point in my life, and there is that invisibility that we navigate being in America.
And she wants to take that message to the community.
We really want to raise awareness of these experiences because these are Spokane stories.
In Spokane, Josue Cuevas, KREM 2 News.
The river may be roaring, but the fish...
This river can be very stingy.
...are shy.
So it's definitely you get lucky when you fish the Spokane.
Catching that lucky fish might be the goal, but...
absolutely about more than the fish.
It's more about the others waiting in the water with Elizabeth Simpson.
But having a connection and having an activity that you do with others is really cool.
A stroke of luck, you might say. Or the work of Heather Hodson.
Now, women have been fishing forever.
Heather started the Spokane Women on the Fly group.
I think that was the biggest thing is, knowing that representation truly matters. And creating a group where we are showcasing and highlighting and amplifying women that look like all different types.
Since 2014, it's grown from a small group to a full community.
Most of us are here for the community, the laughter, the hang.
And I have made some absolute lifelong friends that I never would have crossed paths with otherwise.
all while doing something she loves.
To slow down, to be outside, to listen to the water.
So Elizabeth is still lucky to be fishing, despite no luck with the fish today.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.